Hello, my name is Byron Fulcher and I'm the Principal Trombonist of the Philharmonia Orchestra, which means that most of the time I play this instrument, the tenor trombone, in the orchestra. We have two of those and a bass trombone in this section. But for music of the classical period and early romantic period, I'm required to play this instrument, the alto trombone. So the trombone is part of the brass family of instruments. So these pipes are largely brass, but in actual fact, there's all sorts of alloys in there, bits of nickel. You might notice that the bell from here on this particular trombone is a slightly different color to these other pipes. These are a yellowy brass, and this is known as a gold brass. You can also get rose brass, which I think has a bit more copper in it. And this is a bit more silver. That's got a bit more nickel in it. So those sort of metals make up brass instruments, and the trombone in particular. So the trombone has this distinctive slide. So in order for the slide to move easily, this pipe and the return pipe obviously have to be straight. On this particular trombone, they're the same size. I can change the slide over and it will go on and slide almost as well. So that's known as a cylindrical bore instrument. When you come back to here, this particular trombone has a valve here and some extra tubing. Not all trombones have got that. But from here, the pipe starts to get a little bit wider. This section is known as the gooseneck. And of course, we've got another slide here. So those bits here have to be straight for the slide to go in and out. But the bit across the top gets quite a lot fatter as it goes around there. And the bell gets a lot wider towards the end. So this is the valve. On the tenor trombone, we quite often add one valve. There are plenty of tenor trombones that don't have any valve. This one's got the one. And what that does is it fills in a little bit of the register, which is quite low. It makes it a fully chromatic. And also it replaces the idea that I have to go to the end of the slide quite so often. I can press the valve, so it makes my life a bit easier on occasion as well. So the trombone doesn't take much maintenance. It can get a little bit clogged up with gunk around here, so you need to clean it out occasionally. I have to grease the slide, I have to oil my valve, and I have to grease these two slides here. Unlike woodwind instruments that had keys added, or other brass instruments that had valves added, the changes in the trombone over a long period of time are very small. The mouthpiece has got a little bit bigger. The size, the width of the tube, the bore has generally got a little bit bigger. And the difficulty was to get the bell to flare. That was often difficult to do, to manufacture. So there's a join in many instruments around that place in the bell. Except for some handmade instruments, they have to be beaten out by hand. I think nowadays they can be manufactured in one piece, but for a long time that was a very difficult thing to achieve. So the tenor trombone is pitched in B flat, and like all brass instruments, I can play a harmonic series of notes in any position. So I can also do that series of notes one position down, which takes me a semitone lower. And I can do that for 7 main positions on the slide. As you can hear, the harmonic series, the notes get closer together the higher up I go. So if I take the reasonably high register, quite a lot of notes are available in different positions. And that means in a trombone in B flat, it's fully chromatic from the E below the bass clef stave up as high as I can go. So the sound on the trombone is created by buzzing the lips, like all other brass instruments. And we do that into the mouthpiece, which is proportional to the size of the instrument. So the lower the instrument or the bigger the instrument, the bigger the mouthpiece tends to be. It'd be very hard for me to play straight into that pipe. I couldn't do that, so the mouthpiece makes it possible for me to buzz my lips inside of it. So I have to match the pitch of my buzz with the pitch of the instrument, the resonance of the instrument. If I don't buzz the pitch that the instrument is at, I'm not playing the note in the middle. I have to match up the pitch of the buzz with the pitch of the instrument. So if a composer writes that the trombone should be muted, I would go to this mute. This is a metal straight mute made of aluminium. But before they were made of metal, they were made of maybe wood or cardboard, a bit like this. That's a little bit of a softer sound that you might expect from a non-metallic mute. This one enables me to put this on the end, which turns it into a cup mute, which is a softer sound again. The next mute I've got is this one. This is called a Harmon mute, sometimes called a wah-wah mute. And it's got this insert known as the plunger. So sometimes composers direct for the plunger to be in or out. And when it says out, it's sometimes a bit confusing to know whether they mean pull it out but leave it in or take it out altogether. So really, composers should say plunger extended or plunger out rather than getting those confused. This is a mute that I could put my left hand over the end and make some special effects. And on the trumpet, this was the mute that the famous Miles Davis famously took the plunger out and played without the plunger. So that's a special effect. The next mute is this one. This is called a bucket mute, and it's basically a muffler. It just muffles the sound. It's full of some spongy material, and it softens the sound and is quite distinctive sound also. And the last one I've got is very rarely used. I've only ever really played it occasionally. It's a sort of swing band, maybe big band mute. One trombonist, if he had a solo, might put this in. It's called a solo tone mute, sometimes called a mellow tone mute. And it reminds me of the sort of radio sound of the 1950s. The early history of the trombone involved it playing religious music in churches and real moments signifying death or the appearance of the supernatural in opera and things like that. It's very, very serious. These days it has a bit of a comical overtones, and that came about around the 1920s when composers in the UK and America wrote these glissando solos, and they're called things like the Jester and the Joker. And the Acrobat. The Acrobat is a solo that every trombonist, certainly in Britain, would learn and play early on. Most brass instruments allow us to play normally and also sing at the same time, so we can play some harmony. This is considered a sort of modern contemporary technique, but it was first appeared in Weber's horn concerto a couple of hundred years ago. But nowadays, people write that for trombone solos and occasionally the orchestra. Most orchestral trombone players would probably describe Mahler's Third Symphony as their favourite and certainly our biggest moment. We have passages in that where none of the rest of the orchestra are playing, or maybe there's just a little bit of accompaniment, but it's certainly our big moment. Ravel's Bolero, of course, a very famous orchestral piece. It starts off with lots of solos for the woodwinds and saxophones. The trombone solo comes as the last single instrument solo, and it's just as the music's starting to crescendo before the second side drum comes in, and that solo spot is for the trombone, probably because it's a louder instrument than most of the other solos that come before it.